You know, it's funny how sometimes what looks like a total disaster is actually the start of something amazing. Today, we're talking about one of those moments from early Islamic history, the Treaty of Al-Hudaibiyyah. It's this incredible story about leadership, about keeping your word, and about having this unshakable trust, even when it feels like everything is going wrong. Okay, let's get into it.
And that was the burning question. It was on the minds of so many of the Prophet Muhammad's closest companions, peace and blessings be upon him. I mean, you can just feel the frustration, the pain in those words. To really get why they felt this way, we have to go back to the moment this treaty was signed. A treaty that, on the surface, seemed like a complete surrender.
Okay, so picture this. The early Muslims have traveled all the way from Al-Madinah to just outside Makkah. Their goal? To perform the minor pilgrimage, the Umrah. But they're stopped dead in their tracks by the leaders of Makkah, the Quraysh. And after some really tense back and forth, a treaty gets put on the table. But the terms, well, they were incredibly tough to swallow. So just look at these terms. You can immediately see why everyone was so upset. First, they have to go home without even doing the Umrah. Then, and this is the big one, if anyone from Makkah escapes to join the Muslims, they have to be sent back. But if a Muslim flees to Makkah, nope, the Quraysh get to keep them. It just felt so one-sided, like a total humiliation. And right when they're trying to process this, the whole thing gets put to the ultimate heart-wrenching test. I mean, the ink wasn't even dry on this thing. The agreement had just been made, and all of a sudden, a figure appears in the distance, and this political deal is about to become a deeply personal crisis. Just try to imagine this for a second. You hear this sound, this clinking of metal, and it's getting closer. It's the sound of heavy iron chains dragging through the desert sand. And then you see him, a man named Abu Jandal, stumbling towards the camp. He'd been imprisoned in Makkah for his faith, and he finally escaped, thinking he'd found safety. And the most painful twist? His own father was the guy negotiating for the Quraysh.
This was his desperate cry for help. He wasn't just asking for a safe place to stay, he was begging them not to send him back to be tortured for what he believed. I mean, you can just feel the weight of this moment. Suddenly, those words on the treaty had a face, a name, and a voice filled with so much pain.
So what do? This is an impossible choice, right? Break the treaty you just made, or send this man back to his captors. The Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, made his choice. He honored his word. He told Abu Jandal that a promise is a promise, and they would not be treacherous. It was just this staggering display of integrity, even though it must have been unbelievably painful for everyone there. But right there, in that moment that felt like absolute rock bottom, that's not where the story ends. Actually, it's where the real lesson begins. As Abu Jandal was being taken away, the Prophet gave him something more powerful than sympathy. He gave him a promise. He looks at Abu Jandal and tells him, be patient, hold on. He promises him. He assures him that God is going to make a way out for him and for all the others suffering in Makkah. This wasn't just some nice thing to say to make him feel better. This was a declaration of total trust in a divine plan that nobody else could see right then. And this promise wasn't just coming out of nowhere. It was rooted in this deep, profound spiritual truth found right here in the Quran. This verse says it all. If you keep your duty to God, He'll make a way out for you and provide for you from places you never, ever expected. By honoring that painful treaty, the Prophet was living this verse, showing his complete trust in that promise. So, did the promise come true? You bet it did. And fast, too. As you can see here, less than a year later, that way out appeared, and it was from a source no one could have predicted. Abu Jandal and others managed to escape and form their own independent group. The patience, the trust, it all paid off. Okay, so we've talked about patience and trust, but there's another huge lesson here, and it's all about leadership. Remember that angry question from the very beginning? Why accept humiliation? Well, that came from Umar ibn Al-Khattaab, one of the most respected companions, and how the Prophet handled that dissent is just as important as the treaty itself. So Omar, who is just feeling this so deeply, goes right to the Prophet. He's not being disrespectful, he's just pouring his heart out. He's asking these tough, honest questions. Now look at the Prophet's response. No anger, no punishment for questioning him. He just patiently answers each point, and then states his principle. I am following God's command. It was a real dialogue, not a lecture. And this is so important for us today. What the Prophet showed by his example is that it's okay to question. It's okay to express your concerns to a leader, as long as it comes from a sincere place. That's not a crime, it's a right. And a great leader is one who listens with patience, creating a space where people feel safe to speak their mind. So, let's go back to the beginning. Was this treaty a humiliation? Well, history gives us a resounding no. In fact, the Quran itself calls it a manifest victory. That 10-year truce created a period of peace that allowed the message of Islam to spread like never before, and it paved the way for the peaceful opening of Makkah a few years later. When you really boil it down, the lessons from Hudaybiyyah are just incredible, and they're as relevant today as ever. We learn about the power of being patient instead of demanding instant results. We see how crucial it is to honor your word, no matter what. It teaches us to trust in a bigger plan, and it shows us that real leadership means listening, not just commanding. May peace and blessings be upon him. Which really leaves us with a big question to think about. What does true victory actually require? Is it about winning every battle right here, right now? Or is it about having the moral strength to be patient, to keep your promise even when it costs you, and to trust that integrity will always, eventually, lead to a victory greater than you could have ever imagined?